Our friends at Musto Annapolis invited SpinSheet, a few of our fans, and some special guests to a VIP watch party of the new documentary, Under the Hall. After the viewing, we were treated with a live Q&A session with co-skipper and navigator Simon Fisher of the 11th Hour Racing Team. Here are the highlights from that interview with our own Molly Winans.
So let's talk about that experience at your Transat Jacques Vabre experience. Looking back on it now, it's 6 months later. What's your overriding memory of it?
I guess when I look back on last year's Jacques Vabre, or I actually tend to look at the season in whole, to be honest. And yeah, we actually had a fantastic season, and it was my debut season of short-handed racing, so I was actually very, very proud of what we did with the team and the results we got, especially given it was a sort of an introduction into short-handed racing for both myself and the team. Mm-hmm. So yeah, whilst we had a difficult finish with losing the Masters and the Transat Jacques Vabre, overall it was a very positive season and some great racing, so a lot of good memories.
That's great. So you sailed with Justine Mitchell, one of Switzerland's top female sailors, and also a Musto ambassador. What's she like on board, and what are her strengths?
First and foremost, yeah, Justine's a great sailor. She's really good. We sailed a little bit before we on crude boats before we raced together last season, double-handed. But no, it was fantastic. We got on the boat and very quickly kind of found our rhythm sailing, just the two of us on board, and yeah, a lot of that is testament to Justine and her talent as a sailor and her experience of short-handed sailing. I've done a lot of sailing, but not much short-handed stuff. So Justine was great to sail with, because she brings so much knowledge in short-handed stuff, and that really helped us sort of hit our stride. And yeah, get good results from the get-go.
Yeah. So this is an unscripted question, but it was one that I had just watching the film and thinking that you and Justine have very different English accents. And it must be very loud on that boat. How do you communicate? Does it get tricky sometimes?
No, luckily Justine's English is very good. Much better than my French. So we managed to communicate, and then actually I know if Justine needs to go to sleep because she stops talking in English and starts talking in French. So when she starts talking to me in French, that's when I tell her to go down and get some rest.
That's great. So you've taken part in 5 ocean races with a win under your belt. How is it to be sailing just 2 up? Is this something you would like to do more? That's great. So you've taken part in 5 ocean races with a win under your belt. How is it to be sailing just 2 up? Is this something you would like to do more of?
No, absolutely, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised that it was something I sort of took to quite well. I'd always had aspirations of doing some short-handed sailing. Mm-hmm. I have to say I haven't gone as far as having aspirations to sail single-handed, but certainly double-handed sailing is something that's always really appealed to me. Yeah. Having done a year of it, I'm definitely keen to do more. It's and also now we're sailing with a team, it makes it seem like a luxury. So there's a lot of positives.
Apart from the obvious, you know, that there are fewer sailors on board, how does the setup on board change for a double-handed race like the Transat Jacques Vabre, as opposed to like the fully crewed ocean race?
Yeah, I think one of especially on a long race like the Jacques Vabre, or even on the shorter races we did, which were like 2-3 days, it's you have to be very conscious about how you're using your energy when you're short-handed. There's only 2 of you on board, and any manoeuvre takes both of you, and it can be quite hard to rest, especially when you're going fast. So I think it changes the rhythm a little bit. The nice thing is that when you are resting, you know someone else is sailing the boat when you're double-handed. So it is that little bit easier to rest compared to if you're, say, single-handed. But yeah, you have to be a bit more measured and try and plan ahead, think ahead, try and avoid any unnecessary sail changes, and make smart decisions so you don't wear yourself out unnecessarily. So I guess it's like another layer into the whole strategy and the tactics of the race that you've kind of got to think about. And if you can do it well, then it definitely helps. And yeah, I think we actually did quite well last year. We had some close finishes to races, and we did a reasonable job of sort of trying to keep ourselves fresh to the end rather than being absolutely knackered, and that definitely played into our hands on a couple of occasions.
Yeah, I can see that. So looking forward, it's just 6 months until the start of the ocean race. Where are you now, and what training are you doing?
Yeah, the start's still 6 months away, but actually it feels like it's just around the corner. And when we look at our planning, there's not actually that much time to go. You know, it's going to be a busy 6 months trying to get done everything we want to do with the boat and the team by the time we get the race start in Annapolis in January. Currently, we're a little bit north of you guys, up here in Newport, Rhode Island. The boat's been here since the beginning of June, and actually in just over a week's time, we'll be sailing back across the Atlantic to France. So another opportunity to get some real offshore miles, push the boat hard, keep learning about it, gathering a lot of data. So it's going to be a good trip back. And then on the other side, we've got a little bit of shed time for the boat, where we've sort of incorporate some of the changes we want to make, and then busy schedule in the autumn training around the Atlantic coast, and then ending up in the Mediterranean at the end of the year for the start in January. So.
Tell us a little bit about the conditions on board you'll experience when you're racing in the ocean race. There are big swings in temperatures from the equator to the Southern Ocean. Maybe you talk about your comfort in your kit a little bit. We are in the Musto store after all, so maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I can see lots of lovely new Musto kit behind you guys. No, it's actually sort of obviously been quite an interesting change for us going into the Annapolis, because as you see from Malama especially, is very, very covered up. We spend a lot of our time sailing inside. But so we're not quite getting as beat up by the waves as we have done in the past. But all the time we really need to be ready to go out there and deal with anything outside if we need to. So sort of taking on and off layers is something that happens more than ever, really. So we're very lucky to have Musto as a sponsor and some good kit. Like you say, there's a massive range of temperature. Just on our last transatlantic, we're up by Newfoundland in 3 degrees with everything we've got on, lots of layers, thermals, mid layers, jackets, spray tops, everything, even though we're sailing inside. And when we're down at the more tropical latitudes, it gets really, really hot in the boat. We shorts and t-shirt and doing everything to keep cool. And then we need to be getting our gear very quickly to get outside. So having good gear, having breathable gear is really important.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to look out into the audience here and see, does anybody here have a question for Simon?
A quick question from the physiological standpoint. What did you find was the most optimum watch schedule for a dual-handed race, dual-handed long-distance race? What worked best for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, and it's something we're actually still experimenting with a bit. For the short-handed racing we were doing last year, we might, because there's only 2 of us, it ended up being much more informal, especially when we were racing for 2-3 days. It was very informal. We might do an hour and a half each and just keep swapping, or maybe as long as 3 if we're feeling good and we're going in a straight line. In the TJB, we tried to do 3 on, 3 off in that sort of stuff, where you kind of get a bit more in a rhythm, a bit more relaxed, and there's not sail changes coming up every 5 minutes. So, but now we're into fully crewed mode. I think for our longer legs we're using 4 hours on, 4 hours off, just to try and get ourselves a bit more rested and a bit more free time. But the reality is it's something we're still learning about. Traditionally, we always did 4 on, 4 off with the ocean race in the 65s and the Volvo 70s, but we're always sort of looking to learn, and we've tried 3 hours, we've tried 4 hours, and we might do something even different. We're actually working with a sleep company right now who's trying to help optimize our sleep. So hopefully in this next transatlantic we might get some good data that can inform us how to best approach it.
As someone who does some longer races as well, what are you guys eating and drinking on the boat? Obviously, you've got a really advanced program, so I'm just curious, from a sort of a logistical basic standpoint, like what does that stuff look like?
Pretty much everything we eat on board is certainly all the meals are freeze-dried food. Obviously, one it's light, but also 2 it's very easy to make freeze-dried food. All we've really got to do is boil water and then tip the water in. So when you're busy racing, either fully crewed or short-handed, and it's difficult conditions on board, the freeze-dried food is kind of the way to go. But actually, we try and incorporate some other stuff. It's always nice to have things that feel a bit more natural and fresh. So we try and eat a lot of nuts. We always take a bit of turkeys and ham on board as well. Actually, the freeze-dried food is very high carbohydrate, but very little fat. So we sort of look at ways of adding fat into the diet and also protein. And then obviously, certainly a healthy amount of coffee.
Yeah. So I have a question that kind of goes along with that question of eating and drinking on boat. Do you bring any creature comforts on board to make life a little bit easier for you?
Yeah, I guess the big creature comfort for me is my iPod, my iPhone these days, I guess. But yeah, the iPod, having some music and podcasts and stuff to listen to just when it's quiet, it's kind of my luxury item, and it's actually quite good as well sometimes to put something in your ear to drown out the noise of the boat a bit when you're trying to sleep. So that would definitely be my luxury.
Yeah. And when it comes to the ocean race, do you have a leg in particular that you're most looking forward to? And also, or maybe one that you're not as much looking forward to?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would really enjoy the first leg of the race. From one point, it's sort of really interesting because it's the first race of the leg. Especially now we're in a development class, it's like the first real opportunity to see how you're going against the other boats and learn a bit about your competitors, and then also it's also really fun the north-south legs traveling. You start off dealing with fronts and sort of mid-latitude weather, and then you go through the trade winds into the tropics, the equator, doldrums, and then sort of into the south. We've got a little pit stop in Cabo Verde in the first leg of the race this time, which will be a little bit different, which actually kind of narrows down some of the tactical options there. But yeah, it's always fun going north-south. Once you're across the doldrums, it's about getting into the trades and then picking up the first big front, sort of takes you down to the Southern Ocean and across the Cape Town. And seeing all that different weather as you go north-south is always really, really interesting. And then I guess, I wouldn't say I'm not looking forward to it, but probably the leg I'm most apprehensive about is the Southern Ocean leg. This race, we're doing all of the Southern Ocean in one go. So that's going to be 35 days, probably more or less on the boat, and most of those will be down in the south, in the cold, in the windy weather. So it's going to be tough leg, pretty relentless. I'm sure everyone's going to be pushing hard, so it's going to be a tough few weeks. But in some ways, it's quite nice to get it all done in one go. So it's definitely it's going to be a really important leg for the race because there's a lot of points on offer for that. It's going to be really important to sort of measure our pace, look after our boat, and get through it quickly, but all in one piece. So it's going to be very important and a massive challenge. So I guess Southern Ocean is the league I'm certainly most worried about at the moment.
Yeah. Well, Simon, thank you. You have a little cheering team here in Annapolis, Maryland. We'll be watching your progress and cheering you on. So thank you for taking the time to talk to us. And I hope it hasn't been too strange for our communication system here, but you seem to have answered all the questions well. So we really appreciate it. And come visit sometime when you're in Annapolis.
No problem. It's a pleasure to talk to you all. And I look forward to getting back to Annapolis soon. It's been a while, so I'll look forward to coming there soon, hopefully. Thank you very much.
All right. Cheers. Take care.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.